The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show would like to acknowledge the traditional land owners and the leaders past, present and emerging of Ngunnawal, Ngambri and Darawal countries where we are working from today. This always was, and always will be, Aboriginal land.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
If we're doing the quick preview, then do we want to have a quick, everyone throws their 2 cents in about the Bengals and the Chiefs?
Quick thoughts, I guess. Quick thoughts.
Give me Joe. Give me the Bengals.
I think the Bengals are going to just be too good, and I'm taking them by 11.
I have to give the edge to the Bengals. Obviously, Burrow with Mahomes 3-0 against him. I think they're going to win something like 24-17.
I think that they're going to really do a similar number on the Chiefs' defense here, and I'm picking the Bengals for this one as well.
It's a no-brainer, yeah. 5 and 5. Look, I've got to go with the Bengals.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Like, we're going to be this, like, podcast that gets shown, like, all over the internet by the fact that we all went against the Chiefs. And the Chiefs are going to be up 34-0 in the third quarter, and we're going to be like, wow, why the hell do we go against Patrick Mahomes?
G'day Aussie Gridiron fans, and we are back for another instalment of the Aussie NFL Fantasy Gday Gridiron Dragon Ball Z Fusion Experiments. How are we going, boys? Matty C, Manjot, Marky Mark, and of course Tay. What you call him? Wet cousins.
Moist Kirk.
Cousins?
Moist Kirk
Moist
right
Kirk?
behind me, mate. And look, I think we should all be wearing black because it's a funeral for one Manjot Melly tonight. So
I'm in black.
Commiserations, mate, and I'm sure we won't talk about it at all.
No, not at all.
We know why I'm not saying a word about it. We've already covered that.
So,
Look,
what's the 40
end of the podcast?
Never even heard of it.
So what we're basically talking about is the Eagles scoring 31 points on the weekend. That's it. Not against who, just the fact that they were on a field and they scored 31 points.
I don't think I played against anyone, so it's all right.
No, we don't know who it was against. Boasted didn't turn up, as Matty said. I don't think he was alive.
Oh, so, Joey was there. I saw him.
Oh, yeah, he was. He was getting shit talked out of him by a bunch of Eagles fans.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, for the entire game. Did you see that?
The highlight of my life.
He was in a box for an entire game, and they just chatted at him the whole game.
At the box, 100%.
That's Eagles fans. I mean, we've come to expect those.
Don't we love them?
Yeah.
Anyway, hot start to the pod.
Hot start. Well, it's always a hot start. Right. Well, of course, championship weekend has been done and has been won. So we should talk about a couple of games.
Yep.
Let's talk about that aforementioned Philly Eagles versus the San Fran 49ers.
Pretty close.
It was a close game. It was a close game for the first quarter. And after that, it kind of went really south really quickly for the 49ers, who lost another quarterback and then brought in Josh Johnson as QB4 for the season, and then lost another quarterback later on in that game to really stick a few extra nails in the coffin of the 49ers 2022 season. Well, boys, how about somebody other than Manjot want to start this off?
All of you dissect it before me, please.
Let's the three on the right here. We might as well just get out of the way and just let Matty just decide to say some words to Manjot.
But we all know I've got nothing to say.
No, I haven't heard anything from Matty all weekend.
No, I didn't give Manjot anything on game day either.
No.
The question we kicked around though is just. Okay, so they're down to a third quarterback, and on the most important weekend of the year to that point, right? Because every weekend's the most important until you lose. Is Josh Johnson the insurance you want going into that game? I just think the answer is no. And then it turns up, God, he's even a well Josh Johnson, not better than a hurt Brock Purdy, but both are horrible. it was bad enough that is the case because then the offense non-existent. Really, there was nothing the offense could do, right? And we all agree, they just kind of made it. The offense just couldn't do anything. But then it just meant the defense was just out there all day. The defense was out there for almost 40 minutes, and they somehow only gave up 4 touchdowns. Could have been far worse if the Eagles ever had to get out of second gear.
Yeah. No, I mean, Josh Johnson's been on 50 teams by now. It's just...
Is that it?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Well, it could be close
over under 11.5, I think.
Are you counting just how many?
One team,
are you counting how many times he's just been on the Niners?
Yeah.
Look, one team.
It's a lot.
Yeah, one team he hasn't gone to yet. The Guangdong Tigers. Ni hao, ni hao.
Traditional Australian welcome. Ni hao.
Yeah.
Has he played for the Illawarra Mustangs?
Yeah, Astros. He was an Astro. Yeah,
he hasn't made it until he's on the Hunter Miners.
Hunter Miners. Yeah, well, he played for Berwick Miners, so he's done Miners already, mate. So.
Oh right. Oh shit.
Yeah, just a nod to the old Berwick Miners then in Melbourne. Mate.
Yo.
Yeah. Well, look. Considering, I don't know, he definitely wasn't it as the insurance policy for QB4. Could they have really looked for somebody else that had maybe a bit more starting experience in the NFL to really be that backup? Is that on Shanahan for not thinking or even thinking about the fact that he'd already had 2 QBs out with major injuries, and there is a possibility that you could lose your third because he is only an absolute unknown rookie, and he'd only been there for a few weeks.
I mean, what are the options out there? I'm not sure that there's millions of options better, but I mean, at any rate, the biggest deficiency across all the 4 teams playing each other this weekend, the one unit that was always going up against it was always going to be the 49ers offense. Was going to have the hardest time of everybody else, and they were going to need everything to go right to score points in their game, and somehow they did.
Yep.
Somehow they scored points, and it was a lovely run. I mean, McCaffrey did a terrific job, and it was capped at what was actually a pretty decent drive, but it was all too short, and it was they were just so hampered from the outset.
I just think they had all their eggs in the Purdy basket in the end. Like, I just think they thought we're already down to our third. We have a 4th string behind him. If this doesn't work out, then we're not really going to be winning the game with the 5th string. You know what I mean? Like, not many teams could even throw out a backup that would be able to put up any sort of, resistance against that Eagles team anyway. And they're already down to their third. I think they were kind of like, we're already almost like getting extra than we probably expected out of this guy anyway. And I think they were just like, you know what, this is all gravy. Let's just go for it with Purdy and Johnson. And if the worst case scenario happens that both of those guys go down, then we're pretty much fucked anyway. I honestly think that's just the way they went into it. They were like, we're not going to throw a third guy on there because if we're having to rely on a 5th string quarterback, we're going to lose.
True. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, my one thought constantly, and we tossed it around way back in December, was the same week that the 49ers signed Josh Johnson was the same week that Baker Mayfield became a free agent from the Panthers. Could Baker Mayfield have been a better option for this team for a QB4, Mark?
I think so. The way he plays, he would suit that. I mean, they're a rushing team. So I think he would play well. I kind of see them very similar to what he left in Cleveland in terms of offense. You've got a field stretcher in Ayuk, and then you've got a sort of do-it-all with Debo and a really strong runner in McCaffrey. So, he would have been a much better option.
Yeah. Well, Manjot, you were out. You were out on this game basically in the first quarter, weren't you, mate?
Pretty much first.
You saw the writing on the wall early when Frank Warner went down.
Yeah,
Fred
when
Warner.
Fred went down.
Frank Warner. Fred Warner.
Yeah.
Sorry, Frank.
When Fred went down early, I know he came back in, but when he went down, I was like, "This is not going to be it."
And then, of course, the non-reception.
That shit pissed me off. Honestly, I think. Look. The thing is, like, yes, we probably should challenge it, but they also did bring in the expedited review system this year. that saves coaches challenges. I know it's probably the Eagles went too fast for that to be used as well.
Yes.
But I think they need to actually be a lot better, the NFL. I know this is going to come up later, but like the officiating needs to be better in those sort of circumstances where yeah, you gotta get a sky judge. I think that it's got to get to that point where they actually have to have an official in the sky judge now.
The problem is
the XFL.
Yeah, they have a sky judge in a sense, but they're still all the way back in New York. They're not in the building. The problem is they need to have somebody in the building because it's quicker to get review process or that expedited review process happening when you're there already watching the feed, not sending it across the country to somewhere else for someone else.
I agree.
To look at, so.
And look, more jobs, more people would want that. Like more jobs in the NFL.
It's not going to be more jobs,
good.
dude. It's just going to be. It's just going to be It's going to be one of the old white fucking referees that gets that cushy job. That's all that's going to happen.
Ed Hockley will be back.
Look, on this game though, like after that Smith catch, I was like, okay, definitely not going well. And then Purdy gets injured. I was like, yeah, it's over. Like the thing was, and then when Johnson got injured, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like legitimately, my heart was broken from this game. Like I've been heartbroken for the last 2 or 3 days, like since this game, because the thing was, man, I don't want to get like philosophical and shit, but I've got to get philosophical. Like the thing is, I've seen this so many times. Like I've seen this so many times in my life, where it's like, I'm trying to do my best at stuff, and then something doesn't go my way, and it's not my fault. But then it's like I wish it went I wish it went like my way. I wish it was like, like this person didn't hate on me or something. This person like want to be friends with me or something. Like that shit, like every day, like I see that like all the time in my life. And then like it's like, what can I do? And it's like, oh well, you can't really do anything about that. And that's how it felt with this game. Like, look, no one's winning using their fourth quarterback. No one's winning when you have 4 quarterbacks injured. That's the thing. Like, people are going to start making excuses about us. Look, the thing is, firstly, got to address, like...
I'm saying that.
Defenses... the thing with the defense is 31 points conceded. But when you look at it, the Eagles had the ball 37 minutes for a reason, and that's because the Niners had to use run plays all game. It was so predictable. And look, it looks like the team just couldn't do anything. That's why there was frustrations that boiled over at the end. Look, full respect to Trent Williams, by the way. I mean, look, full respect to the Niners for just fighting. Like, that's the thing. Like whenever I get situations like that in life, like I just keep fighting as well. Like that's the thing I took away from this game for the Niners is that this team didn't want to give up. They wanted to be here. This is a team that, look, I know the score is 31-7, but they kept fighting despite all the adversity that they had to face all season. People are going to call us frauds. Philadelphia definitely deserved to win the game. I'm not taking anything away from them. But the thing was, the Niners, they definitely weren't able to play their best game, and it wasn't their fault. The thing was that these injuries, like the thing with Purdy, right? That injury, that doesn't happen to like many quarterbacks, like 99 times out of 100. You don't tear a UCL on that play like 99 times out of 100. That's just some unlucky shit that happened to Purdy. Like that you can't really like account for that. And then what happened to Johnson? I know people have been like, oh yeah, Purdy should have stayed in the game. Well, Johnson was the only guy that could provide a passing threat. Like, if Purdy stayed in, they weren't going to throw the ball at all. So you got to try with Johnson throwing the ball. And Johnson just like fumbled the game, gifted them points at the end of the half. It was just, you couldn't do anything when you were the Niners.
I mean, they were the Niners offense was gonna be up against it from the start anyway.
Yeah. I said that last week.
Eagles, of all the units this weekend, they were the worst unit going in.
The Eagles defense as well. Yeah. I mean, this is a defense that had already gotten 70 sacks in the season. 4 guys over 10 sacks each, which is astounding. So they were already up against it, like well up against a really strong line. Really
Look,
strong
they couldn't
defense,
do it. Yeah,
so you take
couldn't
those
do it.
key players out. I think you would have struggled against. I think they would have struggled with a top quarterback, let alone a guy that's only been there for 7 weeks, a rookie that's been there for 7 weeks. So.
Well, and they picked the best time to throw out your 2 worst games. Like, I mean,
yes,
they should have been beaten last week. They shouldn't have been there on the weekend in the first place.
Whereas the Eagles' 2 worst games were the last 2 of the regular season. So it's kind of like when you're gonna, when is the best time to have the worst games of your season? Yeah,
it's not like the Niners. Look, the thing is, like, I don't think what I take away is just the Eagles are a good team. Like this. Yeah. This loss doesn't tell me anything about the 49ers, to be honest, because no team can win in NFL history. I bet you 100% that no team in NFL history could have won that game. No team. If they went down to their 4th quarterback and, the other team controls the ball for 37 minutes, the only time you're winning is like if this was like the 1930s and before, because that's when they didn't pass the ball, literally. So, like, the thing is,
you've got to be willing to tackle their running back, though. You can't just let him walk in your end zone twice untouched. You can't just give him the ball 5 meters out a minute before halftime and say, come into our end zone. You also can't do that.
Gassed. Yeah, defense was just gassed in the end. The offense couldn't support them.
You could tell Scott loves a TD.
Yeah.
Yeah, look,
you could tell they were gassed too because the penalties really started and the silly stuff really started mounting.
Ridiculous.
And it was so the 49ers. But
there was not football in the 4th quarter. That was an ugly look.
Let's talk the positives too, though. Rather than instead of focus on negatives, let's talk the positives though. The Eagles, and this is what the positive is going forward. I don't believe this was the best the Eagles have played all season. This isn't the high-powered early offense that we saw earlier in the season, and that bodes well, I guess, for the Super Bowl that they could perhaps bring out something much more than what they did in this game against the Chiefs.
What's their ceiling for the Super Bowl, Marky? We didn't even see them get out of second gear.
I kind of see it differently. If they do come out and try and sling it and go toe-to-toe with Mahomes, they're going to get smoked. So I think they're going to have to be a lot more measured. So keep time in possession, keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands because they're not going to stop Mahomes. Even on one leg, since you have a good defense and they couldn't stop him.
This is a rushing team, though, right? They're not a passing team. They're a rushing team. So
exactly.
That's the MO generally.
And objectively, we talk about the Eagles' defense. The Chiefs' offensive line is really strong at keeping that pocket so Mahomes can operate. So
they've earned their keep the last 2 weeks. Yeah,
that's it. Well, I mean, the whole team has really stepped up around him. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, that's this defense, this Eagles defense, the way that they've been playing, going up against those guys. This is going to be a really big challenge, but I think a really great matchup for them.
Yeah.
I don't think the Eagles are at their best if they're constantly throwing. It's
not what they want to do.
The surprise for me in this game was the fact that they were able to get big rushing, like chunk plays against this Niners defense. I was really, really surprised by that. I really thought that they were going to struggle on the ground. And the main reason I actually leaned towards the Niners winning was I thought that the Eagles struggled anytime a team stopped them rushing the ball. And look, overall, their rushing numbers weren't phenomenal in this game, but they were able to get the chunk plays they needed. And then obviously 3 of their touchdowns, 4 technically, if you want to count Jalen Hurts, all came from rushing. Like it was unbelievable what they were actually able to do on the ground. And if they can get anywhere near that against the Chiefs, I think they're a massive chance. But if they try, like Mark said, to try and match Mahomes in the passing game and turn it into a shootout, I really don't think they can beat the Chiefs that way.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I think the thing is that if they're inviting a shootout, well, you're inviting it against the guy that has the most guns, and that's Mahomes. This guy absolutely is going to be the guy that's just throwing the ball over the field everywhere. He's just going to be...
Which is funny, because he actually has less weapons than Hurts does.
Yeah, I think that's
he actually doesn't have all the weapons
he's the guy.
Do it, but it's him. Like, it doesn't matter who he's throwing to. Like, put all us out there. I'm sure we'd fucking hit us right in the numbers and we just fall over the line.
Yeah. I mean, the guy is making Marquez Valdez-Scantling a January hero.
Yep.
What
Yeah, well, I mean,
who else was out there at the end of the game?
We're already well into this segue. This Chiefs Bengals game was.
I'll probably break a segue if I'm on it, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's got a weight limit.
I do. It does have a weight limit. We should try
My
that.
funeral's over, guys. Thank God. Let's go.
This Chiefs Bengals game was an absolute highlight to finish with, really, wasn't it? It was just right down to the wire. Two great teams playing against each other. And as Matty said, there was a lot going on there for Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Who thought we'd be talking about him with 160
The MVS
yards?
game.
The MVS game. He really showed up big time. More than Kelsey, which we all thought was going to be a big Kelsey game. And the other big one was actually on the other side. Mark's man T. Higgins. Was it Mark picked him? Yeah, Mark picked him. Yeah, after I didn't this week. And here he is showing up with 83 yards and a tud. Wow. It was great, but there was a big problem. A big problem in this game, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Boys, the NFL has a big problem with officiating. And it showed up big time in one of the most viewed games of the season. The numbers came out today, actually, in the US. And that was 59 million eyes or people, rather. So 59 pairs of eyes, or sets of eyes, I should say.
So is that 180 million eyes?
Technically, but I can't. I adjusted because some people may not have both.
No.
And
everyone in Kansas only has one.
There's a few cyclops.
And other people clearly have 3. So we
the
do have
pirate party of Alabama. Thanks you.
Do have to have some adjustments, but there is a massive officiating problem with the NFL, with the most amount of eyes on this game, and this crew absolutely fucking dropped the ball. Mark, I guess the simple question that has been going around over the past, what have we talked, 48 hours now or so, is the NFL rigged?
Mark, my background is a representation of the rest.
I think that's accurate, actually.
That is facts.
They don't get bread for their shit sandwich. They get more shit.
Like the double.
Yeah, no, look,
is it rigged, Mark? I mean, that's
I don't. I listened to McAfee through the week, and they had a really interesting take, and I think that sort of made me look at it a little differently. For the NFL to be rigged, the amount of people that would have to be involved in the scam, you can't get that many people to keep their mouth shut. It's human nature. You wouldn't be able to find that many people. It doesn't matter how much you pay them. So I don't think it's rigged.
And you know what, the thing that everyone that they say, just paying that many people. The thing that I keep going to is you're not paying each person a nominal amount. Everyone's going to have a different figure for what they can be bought off for. So
exactly,
you're basically turning. If that was rigged, you would be turning that entire side of a business into its own separate business, because somebody would have to manage those financials. And it's like, what are we doing?
Just to control the betting market. So like that, I know there's money in gambling, but it's just crazy. And I understand people want to lean on that to try and make sense of what was just a really bad performance. Yeah. Like again, we go back to the referees are human. They made mistakes. They made a lot of mistakes. And on the biggest stage, because everyone, as you say, everyone was watching it. Yeah. That, like anyone, they're going to have bad days, and rightly so. They should be punished for that, and they should be made to sit. So they don't, if they have to reapply for their credentials, so be it.
Yeah. All right. One problem. All right. So, a few things with officiating. Firstly, the rig thing. I guess if anyone saw on Twitter today, we actually had a whistleblower, apparently, Arian Foster, former Houston Texans running back, fantasy football legend for many years, for many of us. He was a whistleblower today. He said games are scripted.
Foster has been into the fucking wacky weed big time.
Yeah.
He's been hanging out with Ricky Williams.
But notice the verbiage, scripted, not rigged, scripted.
Yeah, that's it. But
that's why I came to Manjot straight away. We were scripted at the Astros, mate. We'd go in with 15 plays every game.
He said it was. I mean, he said it was scripted because there was that, I can't remember which coach it was. Manjot helped me out. There was a coach that came up with that 15 plays script that for the beginning of game. And that was his reason for saying it was scripted.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
the
probably
verbiage.
Shanahan, though. It was
But it
probably
wasn't-
actually Kyle Shanahan because he scripts all of his games. And he was the Houston offensive coordinator back in
Yes.
2011.
He scripts his games, but he doesn't play to that script all the time. He starts out with the first drive. This is what I want to do.
Two
and
drives,
sees
all scripted.
2 drives, yes. And then sees what the game is doing and then starts moving those plays around. That's not
coaching.
That's coaching. Exactly, Mark. Exactly.
But the genius in it is that he will just maneuver people around to where he wants them, and he'll go, "Oh, that guy was keying off this player. All right, we'll reintroduce that play later because now we know that guy's reading this fellow, and we can give him the same look in a different formation, and we'll exploit that guy." Like there's genius in going in with a script because you then control the variables. And I mean, that's exactly why we used to do it at a really local amateur level, is because on the field, you get back to the huddle and go, "So what we learned?" And then everyone in the huddle gets smarter.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Back to officiating, though. Actual things, though. Firstly, the standard of officiating in the playoffs and the procedure to select refs definitely needs to change because we're getting all these all-star crews and it's really fucked up a lot of playoff games. I'm sorry for the language and everything, but this has really fucked up a lot of playoff games I've seen in my lifetime. Matty, I got to throw up Miles Jack wasn't down that incident. See, the thing was different refereeing crews would have officiated that one different way. The guy who officiated that way, he probably wouldn't have. The guy who was originally in that refereeing crew that day would have probably been maybe officiated that different way and let the play go out, and then Miles Jack scores a touchdown. I feel like those sort of things happen. Like, for example, the 2018 championship games, the first one, NFC championship game. Look, that Rams Saints game. If you guys see, if there was ever a case where I can say a game was rigged, it was definitely that game. You have to call that penalty, and there was definitive proof that every single ref was from the Los Angeles area or had connections to it. There was definitely some rigging going on in that game. I will not
That's not rigging. That's not rigging. That's called bias, though. That's the different thing.
And look,
it's very different. Rigging implies the exchange of money or goods. So, right. but bias is just an inherent bias. If all those referees are from one area, if they grew up in an area, say they were fans of that team when they were younger, and they came up, and obviously most referees are still fans of a team because they're still from an area. That's just outward bias.
And there's a lot of bias towards the game's elite quarterbacks as well. There's definitely a theme.
But this is part of the problem with the officiating, though, and it's the way that they train each other, or the way that they develop their officiating. There is too much grey in their officiating. There is too much. You could make up whatever you feel like the play would be. There's not enough black and white, and there needs to be. But the problem is that they don't train for this stuff. Well, I assume they would train in some way, but they don't train. It's not like, look at some other sports. Look at soccer around the world. You look at most of those referees. They're really fit. They're hardly any old guys. You're not talking guys that are in their 60s officiating those games. These guys are really fit, as fit as players even most of the time, because they've got to run for an entire game. They train at this, and they train day in, day out. They live and they breathe it. But the other thing they also are is in most of those top leagues, the majority of them, they're paid full time to be that person, to learn and to grow and to excel at their job, the same as the rest of us are in everyday life when we're paid to excel at our job and do our job right. But the NFL, amazingly, doesn't have a single full-time ref on the books. So where do you fix it? Is there a solution, Matty?
Don't know if there's a solution because I don't know if anyone can see my invisible tinfoil hat here, because I think all of this depends on do you believe every week we see 16, 14, however many games where the two teams get trotted out there and it's just best team on the day wins. If we believe that, okay, that's cute. It's amateur sportish. This is billion-dollar business with the most popular TV show on 5 networks. People can't write a show that popular, say put that number 1 on its own network. This is most popular on 5 networks. And do you think for a second that billionaires are just going to let the actors decide? No, there's definitely going to be some influence, which is fine. And I don't think there's a problem with that. I think you want the bigger markets and you want the more popular teams performing well because everybody gets better from that because the revenues are better. And NFL shared revenue means that every team wins from that. So if you're of the opinion that every game you watch is going to be a fair contest, firstly, I think that's madness. And secondly, I think it also depends on how willing you are for billionaires who've just spent their whole life controlling everything to just let a bunch of children who've just come out of college determine everything. I think that's madness to think that. But yeah, they've got a problem with if you can't keep up with what down it is and you can't keep the yardage right, you can't spot a ball properly. I think that's a big problem.
You can't find better ways to communicate that the clock is running.
Yes. Oh gosh, yeah. Even something as simple as that, where it's like, oh, there's clock running, is it not?
And that was a major call in this game. Third down, 4th down. Like, that was huge. It should have been a 4th and 9.
Mammoth. It should have been a 4th and 9.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. And going back to the Niners game, there was a few missed calls here and there. I think my solution, and I want to give credit to Bill Belichick for this idea, is that every play should be reviewable. I think there should be a sky judge. And look, we have 1 trillion cameras everywhere on an NFL field now. I know the game will slow down a lot. I know it'll probably turn into college football where it goes 4 hours. But the thing is, if you want to truly fix it, you've got to go to the extreme and actually check every play using the play clock. And I know that's going to make the game a lot slower. But the thing is, it's probably the only way you can get it right. That full-time refs and everything, you've got to use technology in front of you. I think also expanding coaches' challenges. Like I was talking about when Andy Reid made that second successful challenge, I was like, why don't they get that challenge back ever? Like in cricket, for example, a game that's pretty slow, you always get that challenge back. NRL, same thing. Every sport other than the NFL, you get that challenge back. I think for me, even if you lose the challenge, you should be able to get it back. You shouldn't be capped on the amount of challenges because you've got to get these calls right. These are big games. Players train their whole lives for it. You can't let a guy like a referee really determine your whole future. And definitely home field advantage definitely plays a role with the refs.
100%.
It definitely, with the Chiefs especially, they definitely got the rub of the green with the refs in that game.
Oh, we saw it the week before in Santa Clara too. 100%.
I mean, even in Philly and everything, every game in this playoffs, you can say that the home team definitely got some sort of
second half in Jacksonville. We got a better run of penalties. A much better run of
game. Even that Bills-Bengals game, that was definitely catch by Chase. But either way, these definitely always go towards the home field. That's just how it works with these sort of biases. And I think the thing is, getting truly impartial refs is going to be hard because everyone's going to be American. And, there's always going to be these sort of biases. This guy from this area, okay, I love this team because, my best friend grew up in, Kansas City or something. The thing is also, the difference between quarterbacks. I remember when Cam Newton was in the league and he was complaining about how he never got roughing the passer calls, but then guys like Tom Brady did. There's definitely the thing, I think the torch has been passed from Tom Brady to Patrick Mahomes in terms of protection by the league as well. Because once you're the game's top quarterback, you're in the top 3 or top 5, you're definitely going to get more of the rub of the green as well. All of these biases definitely play into this. And I think that's the thing that they need to fix amongst the refs. They need to really train these biases out of them. And it's really unfortunate. I do feel for the Bengals because there was a late hit out of bounds on Mixon that wasn't called. But then the Asai one was called because it's Patrick Mahomes getting the hit. And even then, you can't blame what Joseph Asai did because you can't change your pursuit angle that fast. anyone who's played football.
He didn't have to push him. I mean,
yeah, okay, true,
that was a bad decision.
That was bad.
But I agree with you mostly.
Yeah, you can't change your pursuit. He still like fucked up his leg. Like he tried his hardest to like absolutely change his pursuit angle and not make that penalty. If he stopped going, Mahomes was getting that additional yardage anyway. If he kept going, yeah, there's a penalty. Look, you can't really blame it all on Joseph Asai. His teammate Jermaine Pratt, absolutely an L for absolutely blaming him. It's one of those things where I just think they need to fix like the refereeing, and they need to like make defenders. They need to ease up the rules on defensive players because it's just getting too hard to play defense nowadays. I feel for them every single week. I probably say that I feel for the defensive guys in the league.
One of the other things they don't seem to do, which baffles me, is that there are only 2 games on this weekend, yet they pick these playoff crews based on how each of the crews gels together and not necessarily the best of the referees during the season. So other leagues, I guess here in Australia, we're used to when they pick crews for state origin games, the refs are the best performing refs over that point of the season. So they appoint them based on how well they've performed over the season, how well they perform their job over the season. Whereas the NFL picks these crews based on how the crew gels together. And a lot of time it's the same crew that's just been working together for all of the regular season rather than...
There is a bit to be said about that familiarity, though. You've got 7 or 8 people who all have to be on their zones. They have to know how each other communicate, and they have to know what each other's tendencies are. It's very difficult to get all that working harmoniously if you're now working with someone you've never worked with before on a big game. So in some ways, I can see why there'd be an inherent advantage in it. But you're bringing bias with it because you've got teams who officiate games a certain way.
Yeah, I get that, but the only ones you need on that would basically be your head judge and your back judge because they work together so closely. They're the only ones that need to know how each other work and how you're looking and calling a game. You don't need the same crew that you've got as your sidelines, as your down refs. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need that. They can be the person that's been performing that role the best over the course of the season. And wherever it might then be, where are they then available for? Which game might they be available for, et cetera, and things like that. And then things like Manjot's talking about the Sky Judge idea, or obviously it's a fourth referee in soccer terms, or VAR, which they also have as well. That could easily in playoffs be performed by another head referee who isn't actually officiating any of those games that weekend. So because you're already trusting the Whitecaps to do the highest of high jobs anyway, so they could easily be paying them to do that job on site at a game. But yes, so it's just, there are things, and I think it does start with things like referee academies and full-time referees for the top jobs and pathways. There seems to be no referee pathways that I can find.
You just got to be a referee's son.
yeah. Apparently, I can do it everywhere, and there's no firm pathways to come up to be an NFL referee. And I think
make sure your dad's a ref. That's it.
I think a lot of that's got to do with how
That's
different
probably
the rule
why
sets
Miles
are.
is never a ref, Matty.
I reckon that might be why.
Yeah,
R.I.P. Miles'
got those
career.
connections. Yeah, he would have been I reckon he would have been a better ref than any of these guys.
100%. But how accurate do we need this to be? Because we are relying on links of metal between 2 foam posts to decide whether someone gets a first down. We're deciding some chump who's standing 30 yards away is just going to say he saw in a pile of shit that the ball got across, and he'll just put it on the ground somewhere. And we've got you could have these things rigged up that the ball will vibrate and give a signal when it crosses where these sticks are. You don't even need it to be sticks.
Not even that.
All of this could be automated, and we're just not doing it. So do we need it to be that accurate?
We're in an era where we build houses using laser levels, and yet we're still using chains. Like, it's just
100%. Mark is desperate to get in here, so I'm going to shut up.
The NFL are actually already trialing chips in the football, so it's already technology they're using.
Next gen stats.
Yeah. So the technology's there. They've just
Could
got
be doing
to
it.
embrace it. And just
They need to
use
trust it.
Could be doing it.
Could it be worse than what it is now?
I mean, like, and this is like anything. You can determine the difference between a guy who ran 100 meters a hundredth of a second faster than the guy next to him. But man, we need some 75-year-old guy on a sideline to decide where to put a ball against where he thinks they sit against some chains. And the ball's in a pack. Like, what are we even doing? Like, how accurate do we really want it to be? And here we are pissing and complaining about, did the guy catch it or not? It's, did he get the first down? We could have solved a lot of this. We could have solved a lot of it.
Chains will remain in the game though. People will still be sent because players do need that sort of visual indicator. Okay, that's where the exact.
No, I agree.
It'll still exist. I'm saying,
but it's the
just
fact that we're
technology...
using the physical chains, though, Manjot. We don't need the physical chains.
You actually need the links.
So eventually,
people surveyed countries like that 250 years ago.
It's the spot that's the problem where they spot it.
Yeah, and that will change. So they'll put I reckon where it's going to be a first down marker, they're going to put in those markers a GPS system and then like in the ball a GPS system. And then that's how it's going to be. So the chains will still be in the game. There'll still be people in jobs with that sort of job, which I'm really worried about the job economy right now in the NFL today.
It's when they drag the chains out in the field to measure where the ball is marked.
So stupid.
As well
it's
too.
tension.
And you watch them pull it and move it. Like it's just like
drama.
Come on. There's guys employ the world over to be survey markers and to build roads with 2 sticks and some fucking lasers, and we're still using a piece of chain attached to 2 rods. What are we doing?
So dumb.
In the richest, biggest league in all of sports. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, we got to be real. Come on, man. Also, we got to get Talor in on this, I reckon.
Come on, Tay. You've got something to say.
You're too quiet during our conspiracy theory.
This guy's a punter. He's got a bit to say.
You want my honest opinion? I don't know if he's ready for it because
I'm ready.
It's very vastly different from everything you guys have been saying.
Come on.
I don't have an issue with the refereeing. Honestly, I don't. I don't think they made a difference in the games at all. I honestly think the Eagles win easily if the referees make the exact same decision. And I honestly think the Chiefs were the better team. And I don't think I think we're making a huge deal out of not that many issues. Like the Asai hit was 100% late. It was 100%. There's no chance that wasn't a penalty. It's 100% a penalty. The Burrow grounding, you can make a case that P. Ryan was in the area, but I think he was still grounding it on purpose. I think it was fine. I feel like a lot of the stuff they actually said were right. You go to the wide view of that one where it was the 3rd down. The ref was trying to stop it. He was running in trying to stop it. He just couldn't get them to because of how loud it was. If they had got a 1st down, I'm sure the ref would have said, no, that's not the play. I was trying to stop it. The only problem was the fact that they got the stop. If they didn't get a stop, they would be laughing the fact that they had to go back to 3rd and 9 after Mahomes just threw a 40-yard bomb to someone. I don't have the same. I understand the idea. There are like underlying issues generally over the whole season, like what you said about the ball tracking and stuff like that. There are a lot of issues with the ref. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying based off the 2 games we just saw, I think we're massively overblowing the refs. I don't think it was that bad. I really, really don't. I thought we got the 2 right winners, and I just don't think that the things that they did actually made that much of a difference. And I actually think they got more right than people are actually giving them credit for.
Oh, totally. Can I ask, do you think then, Tay, are we just 16 games of energy every week, but we've only got 2 to put it in? So we're just killing every decision. We just 100%. Any other week we've got, 8 times as many things we can point at. This week we've got 8 times less, so we just got to point harder.
If anyone that plays on the basketball teams that I play on will be laughing their heads off right now if they're listening to this, because I am like $1 to get a technical foul against the refs every single week I play. Like, I can't handle when the refs get a shit decision, like they get a decision wrong. So I'm not trying to sit here on my iron throne, like acting like I'm like sniffing my own farts above everyone, thinking I'm a genius. I'm just trying to say that generally, based off these games, that the Devontae catch wasn't a catch. I still think the Niners should have challenged it. I still honestly, in these situations, right? People keep talking about we should be doing this, we should be doing that. We are never ever going to get everything right, ever. There is no way. There is always going to be human error, unless we're all of a sudden got robots running the referees. Like, there is no way we are going to get everything right. So there's always going to be a fan base from a team that is pissed off about something. So I just don't think we need to make all these ridiculous, drastic changes all at once just because we saw a few wrong decisions in 2 playoff games. Like, I'm sorry, we're just never going to get everything right. It's just never going to happen.
Agreed. I don't know. We can't get better than that, Matty.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
I cannot add to that.
Need to mic drop that.
There's like 4 of us talking about all this stuff, and you have brought the entire counter argument in one hit. Shut up. I mean, I've refereed. I've refereed both soccer at local and bigger levels. I've refereed roller derby, which actually it's all the roller derby rules actually come from NFL rules anyway. It is so fucking identical. It was so easy for me to pick up NFL rules because of how I'd already thought of stuff. And I admit there's no way I get everything right. And there's been plenty of times where I would have blown a whistle and then just told players to play on because I've blown a whistle for something that I thought and then just gone, no, I'm an idiot, and just keep going. So you don't get everything right at all. But it's more about, my points are always about making it better, striving to be better, but also I take huge umbrage with the fact that we've still got 60-year-olds running around doing the refereeing, and they can't bring 20-year-old kids up, because there's no pathways and you can't get into it unless, like Matty said, you're someone's son. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I guess my issue is, I take umbrage with the fact that we're all talking about like a game's rigged, and that's all. No, that's the kind of stuff that's going to stop anyone coming through wanting to be a ref. We're not going to get good refs if all we do is complain about the refs all the time. I agree with you guys. We should be more looking at behind the scenes stuff like chips and balls and things to help the refs. Not saying that all they're doing is the wrong thing. Like, we should be doing things to actually, like, from an NFL level, help the refs actually make the better decisions instead of saying, oh, they've obviously got bias. They're not there. They're doing shit jobs. It should be robots. Like, we shouldn't be hammering these guys for making a 51-49 call wrong. Like, they should be getting given help, not us hammering them. That was sort of my point. I'm not saying that what you guys were saying was wrong in terms of how to help them. I just think we shouldn't be hammering them constantly because, honestly, I think the 2 best teams won.
I think so too. I do too.
I would agree with that. The one thing that I bring it all back to, and this is just something that it came up with the whole, people in the stands videoing Jets calls. This is where it all kind of starts, is being like, the league is not there to offer you a fair game of football. You are in the wrong place. They are there to offer you entertainment. That is their job. Are you entertained? Not did you get a fair game? And it is legislated. They do not have to give you a fair game. They are beyond antitrust. They can put the most rigged game they want on, and you've got no recourse. Like, the folks who were most upset about that, there was a class action by Jets fans saying, well, we want our money back. We didn't get a fair game. And it turns out Supreme Court says, oh, they're under no obligation to give you a fair game. They're obligated to give you entertainment. So I think when you consider it in those terms, you go, well, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, well, that's an NFL issue, not a refs issue. Like, as in, like, if they're planning to do that, then they're never really going to fully fix anything anyway. So,
is it good for the league for Jacksonville to be very good? No. So give them a few disadvantages and not make them good. If you can give a grandfathered in, well-respected, a long-time successful team like Green Bay one advantage and Jacksonville one less, that's good. That's actually good for the sport, to be honest. It sucks to be a Jags fan, but it's good for the sport.
How many chances did the Bengals have to win that game? Like, it 50. Was absurd.
Well, that's the biggest point. Is the Bengals if the Bengals played better, if they won their missed opportunities, then they would have won the game, and that's
100%.
what it comes down to. They made mistakes. Their individual players made mistakes, and they fucked up, and that lost them the game. The Chiefs' individual players made mistakes and fucked up, but they didn't make as many as the Bengals did, or not ones that mattered as much to the overall game. And
the Bengals O-line is basically a fucking pancake.
Yeah, and then that's in terms of the game, because we haven't talked much about the actual game. Jesus Christ! I mean, we talked last week about, and that was one of the questions I said: are they better? Is this O-line better than last season? And they had been. Then what the fuck just happened? Because
I don't think they are better.
No,
I honestly don't think they are. I just think
They're
Burrow.
backups.
I'm missing 4 of them.
Well, but it doesn't matter. They're missing 4 of them. They couldn't even protect him.
Yeah, because they had one starter.
Yeah, look, they had one starter.
But they're one starter. You say that they're one starter. Are these not NFL players? Are they?
No, the second rung of them aren't.
No. Are they on a 54-man roster? Are they on a 54-man roster in an NFL team?
But this is the Josh Johnson argument. Does that guy belong on an NFL field starting in a playoff game? No.
He's gone through.
Did he have to?
Teams.
Yes. So these guys, they're warm bodies. You just need to stick someone in front of them and hope they stop something, and they couldn't because they're not fit for purpose.
I think everyone got sort of hoodwinked the week earlier when they had them go down and they only gave up 1 sack against the Bills. And to me, that just more said like that was an indictment on the Bills. I think the fact that they couldn't get through that O-line and actually get to Burrow. I actually made a point last week that I think we were actually giving the O-line too much credit. I think that was actually Burrow this year making different reads and actually getting the ball out quicker and actually playing better than he did last year. Don't get me wrong, I do think the O-line was better than it was last year. It literally couldn't be worse. Like, it was just fucking dog shit.
It's been a better secondary this week.
I don't think it was that much better. Like, I think that Burrow was actually being smarter with it. And in the end, I just don't know if he was making the right plays in the first quarter. I think he was a little bit shell-shocked. And I really thought he should have been getting the ball out quicker.
Yeah, you made that comment during the game as well. You said he needs to get this ball out quicker. And then that very next play after you wrote that in our chat, he held that ball for what seemed like an eternity and got sacked. Yeah. 20 yards back from where the line of scrimmage was too, by the way.
Watch some of those sacks, right? He was getting sacked after like multiple seconds with the ball. Like, like don't get me wrong, not all of them. There were some ones where he just got fucking drilled straight away. Like, that was their fault, and that's how it is. Like,
that one on the goal line.
You're expecting 2 to 3 sacks, but there were a couple that were definitely his fault. And like, even when I say get the ball out, even if it's a throwaway, like, it's better than a sack. Like, he should have just been throwing it at the back of one of his receivers and just taking the loss down and just going to the next one. But I don't know. I think we were giving the O-line a little bit too much credit, I think.
Probably right.
So what about the Chiefs? Any words on the Chiefs before we finish this? Thoughts, Mark?
Chris Jones.
Oh, Mark, go first, yeah.
Yeah, I just think they're the better all-round team. They manage the occasion better. They were ready to play on both sides of the ball, and that's where they won, both sides of the ball.
Manjot?
Yeah, I was going to bring up Patrick Mahomes. Ever since I've seen him come into the league, I've always believed he's been on this destiny to become the greatest quarterback, greatest player of all time. And like, ever since I saw him in 2018, I was like, this kid, one day, I'll probably be considering him to GOAT. And I know I put up the poll every year, starting from this year, pretty much. I'll be putting up a poll every year on Pastry Press asking, is Patrick Mahomes the GOAT? And I honestly, I think he is on that trajectory. This guy, phenomenal. 5 seasons, full-time starter, 5 AFC Championship games, 3 Super Bowl appearances, has 1 win, could have a second one. Now, that is an incredible resume to start a career with. Almost up there with Tom Brady's start of a career. I think Mahomes will be better because I don't think Mahomes will go a decade without winning a Super Bowl like Brady did. I think Mahomes will actually be consistent for us coming back every 2 or 3 years and winning a Super Bowl. This guy is just too hard to stop. You can't even stop. Mahomes with one ankle. You can't even stop him with no Tyreek Hill. There's no way you can stop a Patrick Mahomes. And I think definitely like the GOAT debate. It's a long way to go. There's a long way, and he still needs to win more Super Bowls. But he's on the right path. This guy is a phenomenal talent, and there is no denying it. Patrick Mahomes one day could be the greatest quarterback that ever played this game. It's incredible what he's done. And look, I can't wait to see this guy more. As much as he hurt me in 2019, I want to see more of Patrick Mahomes. Like, I'm starting to feel that love again after my heart broke from him. I think I'm starting to feel that love again. Probably this is why I'm probably going to be an NFL commentator one day, is because I'm probably going to be, loving Mahomes a bit too much. But yeah, another point, yeah, on commentary, I just really want to see Tony Romo do a lot better with his commentary. Just want to see the dude just actually try rather than state the bleeding obvious. I think he's
big play,
starting to
Jim.
Yeah, I don't know, Jim. That was a pretty bad call right there. I don't know what was going. That's pretty much what he sounds like. It's getting a bit annoying. Get me and Matty C up there. Get me and Matty C up there. That's my 100%. Commentary bit of the week. But yeah, look,
we just get Tony Romo out. He's done. He's not fulfilling the role that they employed him for originally anymore.
But you know who I do like? Greg Olsen. I mean,
yes.
I don't mind a bit of Greg Olsen, and I saw it written today. Hey, how much does Greg Olsen just look like if Will Ferrell was playing Tom Brady?
Yeah. And look, that's the sad part about Olsen is he's going to get replaced by Brady.
Will Ferrell.
That's one of the worst. That's probably one of the worst decisions Fox could make because Olsen's a great announcer.
Yeah, I think he's terrific. So there you go.
Yeah,
you know what you got to do. You know what you got to do. It's going to be Jim Nantz and Greg Olsen. You know you want it.
Yeah, and man, I was actually really I really do enjoy those CBS top team broadcasts. Though.
No, I hate CBS. I cannot stand
I like the
CBS
second
broadcast.
team. Second team is the GOATs though. Like Iron Eagle, Charles Davis. That's actually a pretty good choice.
Oh, I cannot stand
that's really, really underrated. And also, like the theme music, like when you hear that outro, it just brings back so much nostalgia. Anyway, Taylor, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, can we give a massive shout out to the Chiefs defense? Like that, they aren't getting talked about at all, and they were massive in this game. They lost Snead in the first quarter, and then somehow kept this Bengals team to what did they score, 20 points or whatever it was. Yeah. They were awesome. And Chris Jones was absolutely a man on a mission in this game. Like they could not stop this bloke. They were double, triple teaming him and he was still getting through him. And especially in the big moments at the end of that game, like he was ridiculous. Like I thought, honestly, I said the Chiefs defense was probably the weakest part of anyone's team that are left out of the top four. Yeah. I ate my words because they were awesome in this game. I give them so much credit. They had a bunch of rookies on that defensive, in the secondary and that, and it was they were awesome. I give them so much credit, and honestly, I know Pat Mahomes is going to get all the credit, and he deserves it, for what he did on that high ankle sprain. But I think the defense was a huge part of why they won this game.
Yeah, 100%. Mark, you going to say something?
No. I was I completely agree with Taylor. And Frank Clark's a beast. So their D line is stacked.
It's about time they had a really aggressive D line too, because I haven't really had that for years. But look, before summing this game up, we all pretty well went for the Eagles in the earlier game. Ian stuck his neck out and thought the 49ers should have won that. And so the rest of us all picked up a prize for that. But Ian turns it around in this game. We all go before the game, okay, we need some score predictions. Ian calls 23-20. He called it.
Yeah.
Taylor 24-20, not bad. Manjot 27-20, pretty good. I called 29-18 because I wanted field goals. I had McPherson. But Ian calls the score. He called the wrong team, but he called the score. So not bad.
You know what really shit me off is I was actually going, when I said that, it was in my head, and I went 23-20, and I was so set on it, I started scrolling through all 3 of my betting applications to pick the score, and none of them offered to pick the score. That was so dirty. And then I was like, fuck you, doesn't work. Anyway, I put other ones on, and then when it ended up 23-20, I was like, fucking
you assholes owe me money.
Split the table. So I just want to make sure I mention that, because I write all this shit down. I mean, and in the early game, so Ian stuck his neck out, went for the 49ers. Manjot, he convinced you, went for both teams, but he did call Philly by 3, and I'm sure Talor was saying he thought it would be a fairly close outcome too. But Marky Mark and Matty C, defenders of all things rational, said Eagles by 1 million, and I feel good about that.
Well done.
Yeah, I just wanted to finish that with Marky and Matty are smarter than everyone in the room.
Yeah, righto. Well, let's get on to
and we'll just
then,
end the season on that.
Well, as we move forward into our fantasy section, the problem I've got right now, Matty, is I look at a Chiefs team and I don't know who I would even pick off a Chiefs team for a fantasy team.
Right? And I mean, we've got to pick some people. There's 5 of us, and then there's only 4 teams playing, so we're going to have to use some Chiefs.
And probably against my better judgment, I'm in danger. I'm going to pick Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, nice. He's number 2 on my list.
What are you going to do here, man? Which 49er are you going to take off Manjot?
Yeah, that's the best part.
Is Kittle still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take Kittle. I was trying not to pick too many players from one team, but I feel like I wanted a running back, so it's too hard. So I think I'll just go with Isaiah Pacheco. And I think I'm going to go same again. I'm going to pick Butker. I don't know who I would even pick off a Chiefs team for a fantasy team. Chiefs.